This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. We have another very important show. You know, sometimes I say we have a great show, but sometimes the news is not something that is great. This week, it's quite bad. And in fact, it's been bad for quite a while. But we've had a recent announcement by our so-called Attorney General, who last week I wrote a column in WND.com. You can find that at freedomwatchusa.org, calling that Attorney General Jeff Sessions a national disgrace. This week it's gotten worse. He refuses to appoint a special counsel to investigate not just the FBI and the Justice Department's involvement in the Fusion GPS Steele dossier caper, where a phony dossier was used to get surveillance, illegal surveillance under our Constitution, the Fourth Amendment, of the president and everybody around him. That gave rise to the special counsel Robert Mueller being appointed in large part. But he's taken it a step further. In addition to not appointing a special counsel, he's put in this flunky, this U.S. attorney in Utah who was appointed by Obama in 2015. This guy was appointed as a Democrat. Trump, he must not have been looking very carefully, at the request of Sessions, had him made U.S. attorney in Utah. This guy's named John Huber. He is a Republican and Democrat establishment hack. And this is meant to delay the appointment of any special counsel, if not completely quash the appointment of a special counsel. And I'm not just talking about the Fusion GPS scandal, but I'm also talking about investigating the Hillary Clinton email scandal, the foundation with Uranium One, and all of the other scandals that are out there that need to be addressed, because there is a dual system of justice, as the president has said, and as I have said long before that. We need to bring about the rule of law. Otherwise, we don't have a nation of laws. We have a nation of corrupt men. And that's what Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and Benjamin Franklin and the rest of our founding fathers tried to create, a nation of laws and not men, back in 1776 when they declared independence in my birthplace of Philadelphia on July 4th. So what does Sessions do? He puts him there to, maybe it's Uber, who knows? He puts him in there to create an impression that he may appoint a special counsel in the future. Now, why does Sessions completely refuse to do this? Because Sessions himself, as we learned last week, was under investigation by Andrew McCabe, the deputy director of the FBI, for committing perjury in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee when he was having his confirmation hearings. They asked him, there was a Democrat senator, Al Franken, who asked him, an obnoxious individual, but the question was asked, did you ever meet with the Russian ambassador Kislyak? And he said no. He lied to the Senate Judiciary Committee. I mean, his memory can't be that bad. He is Attorney General. He has some intelligence. So he's defensive about that. And he's defensive about the fact that Robert Mueller's been investigating him for alleged Russian collusion, which, of course, while insignificant, he doesn't want to be tainted by any of this. And Mueller's also investigating him for alleged obstruction of justice in the firing of James Comey because he was communicating with President Trump at that time. So he has buried his head in the sand. He's worried that Mueller, who is primarily a product of the Democrat establishment, in fact, he has all Democrat leftist hacked prosecutors around him, could ultimately indict him. So he doesn't want to make waves, and that's why he's suppressing all of this. I hate to say it, but I'm true. No one understands Washington, I believe, as well as I do. I spent many, many years there. I see how the establishment protects itself. This guy, Huber, is not going to go against his own Justice Department. He's a product of the Democrat and the Republican establishments. He doesn't want to offend anybody. That'll be the end of his career after he's U.S. attorney. And this is simply a cover-up by Sessions. Couple that with other developments this week. And this is why you need to go to freedomwatchusa.org. freedomwatchusa.org. Sign the petition and donate to our cause. We need to get 100,000 signatures to have President Trump finally come out of his hibernation. This man has great instincts, but he's been given bad advice by the lawyers around him. Jay Sekulow, who is a fine religious rights lawyer, is not a criminal defense lawyer. You know, he's good on Fox News, and that's how the president found him. But, okay, that's not going to get you there. And then you've got Ty Cobb, his other current lawyer. Previous one, Dowd, is no longer his lawyer. He was just a establishment hack in any event. But Ty Cobb's a Democrat. He represented John Wong during the Chinagate scandal when I was at Judicial Watch, the alleged Chinese spy that was lining the pockets of Clinton and Democrat coffers while at the Commerce Department selling seats on trade missions for $100,000 a pop in political campaign contributions, plus passing classified information to the communist Chinese that he was getting through CIA briefings at the Commerce Department. So this is the type of a situation where the president needs to take the bull by the horns, and it's why we need 100,000 signatures. We now have about 20,000 and counting to demand that I be appointed special counsel, because I'll clean up not just the mess with Hillary Clinton, with John Brennan, James Clapper of the corrupt intelligence agencies, and we'll talk about that, and everything that's been going on in the deep state in Washington, D.C., but I'll also take out Mueller, because Mueller's been leaking grand jury information. He needs to be investigated himself. That's a criminal offense. He's got to be out of there. You got to get rid of this guy. And if the president just keeps going along to get along, taking the advice of his lawyers, let's play it safe. Let's try to be nice to Mueller. He's going to do the right thing in the end. Well, you know, and I hate to use this language, but that's bullshit. That's total bullshit. This guy is now off investigating the Trump business empire. He's frantic to find something to indict Trump with, or people around him, like his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, or his son, Donald Trump Jr., and others. He's got to justify spending tens of millions of dollars of taxpayer money. Plus, this guy is on a vendetta because his friend, James Comey, was fired by the president. Well, the president needs to take the bull by the horns. He's got to swing for the fences right now. He may have Ty Cobb, but Ty Cobb has struck out. Ty Cobb is not the equivalent of his great-grandfather, who was one of the great baseball players in American history. This guy's a loser, and he's 77 years old. You know, I'm getting up there myself. I'm not that much. I'm in my 60s, but I'll tell you something. 77, you slow down. That's just a fact. This guy doesn't have it anymore. So he needs lawyers that will give him the right advice. I'm available if the president wants to hire me. I don't need the job. But I'll tell you something. There's nobody else in this country that will do the job. So at a minimum, have me appointed special counsel, and go to freedomwatchusa.org, freedomwatchusa.org, and sign that petition and donate to our cause. Now, there are two other things that happened this week, and this is why we need a special counsel that's going to break through the corruption here. We've got three highly corrupt branches of government, more than ever existed before. We've got an executive branch, which is run by an Obama and Clinton deep state, loyal to the ultra-left, not loyal to the president. They stab him in the back every step of the way. We've got a legislative branch of a bunch of clowns, of fools that run around vying for the right to come on Sean Hannity or some other place and toot their own horns so they themselves can collect campaign contributions and get reelected. But you know what? That's about all they do. They make a lot of noise. They go on TV. They uncover stuff, but nothing ever happens. When has ever anything happened in Congress? They could not even pursue a criminal contempt proceeding against Eric Holder for Fast and Furious when he withheld documents from them and refused to testify. This is just basically a dog and pony show on Capitol Hill, which is entertaining, but does little to nothing. And then you've got people like Trey Gowdy, who play both sides of the street. One day loves Robert Mueller, the next day he wants another special counsel. He's going back into private practice, likely with a big law firm. He wants to keep his hand in both the Democrat and the Republican establishments. That'll jingle the change when he leaves. He presents a good image, but in reality, he's a hack as well. I'm telling it like it is, because where are we today? You asked yourselves, listeners and patriots, what justice have we seen for the last 20 to 30 years in this country? against the elites. And that's why you need Larry Klayman as special counsel. But let me tell you what else has been happening. This week, our case against Hillary Clinton for Benghazi. We filed a lawsuit for the parents of Ty Woods and Sean Smith, Charles Woods, and Patricia Smith. You remember Patricia Smith. She spoke at the Republican convention for wrongful death because Hillary, using that private unsecure email server, gave up the coordinates of Ambassador Chris Stevens, which led to terrorists attacking and killing our client's sons, Ty Woods and Sean Smith. The case that we filed for wrongful death and defamation, because Hillary also called our clients liars when they revealed that she told them that this was only the work of Muslims who were mad about a video of Muhammad. No, she knew that it was al-Qaeda that did it, and she lied. And then when our clients said what she had said to them during the presidential campaign, she called them liars, and that was defamation. Well, a political hacking judge by the name of Amy Berman Jackson, you guessed it, appointed by Obama, dismissed that case. I took it up on appeal. It was assigned to a 3-judge panel at the D.C. Circuit. 2 Obama appointees, 1 Republican establishment hack, and who basically has no views on anything other than their own self-preservation. Patricia Millett, actually we learned, I looked at FEC records, Federal Election Commission, contributed money to the 2008 presidential campaign of Hillary Clinton. I asked her to get off the case. She wouldn't. I filed a motion for disqualification. She herself ruled upon that. And then I went to the full court, and they wouldn't touch it. Well, an opinion issued this week affirming Jackson's ruling dismissing the case. I'm not going to have to go back to the full court and the Supreme Court. But I'll tell you something. This tells you what's happening in the federal judiciary. And I got more to tell during this show. Because without a federal judiciary that will protect the American people, we are left defenseless. And what is our choice? I don't want to see it. And I will never be violent. I won't advocate that. But we're headed into another violent revolution. This is the state of affairs that's going to continue. So take a look at our website, freedomwatchusa.org. Sign up to have me appointed special counsel. I'll be right back.
Dangerous.
Don't care. Use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I want to talk now about the federal judiciary. I want to continue this discussion. We just talked about these hack leftist judges with regard to our Benghazi case against Hillary Clinton. But there was also another development this week. A judge who I previously held in high regard, Judge Richard J. Leon, of the same district court in Washington, D.C., dismissed a class action lawsuit against the Obama National Security Agency, the CIA, and the FBI, and a variety of individuals who violated the constitutional rights of millions of Americans with illegal mass surveillance. This judge previously issued 2 courageous rulings back in 2013 and 2014, preliminarily enjoining the intelligence agencies from this illegal surveillance. And of course, the intelligence agencies are the primary source of the so-called deep state. They are a force more powerful than the president of the United States because they have the ability to dig up dirt and coerce and blackmail people to do what they want. They can be paid off. They want power. They want money. You have people running these agencies, and they're still running it through the loyalists that still remain, like the corrupt former CIA director under Obama, John Brennan, and the corrupt director of national intelligence, James Clapper, also under Obama. These hacks control the fate of this nation, and they still do it. And then you had Mike Pompeo, who became the CIA director. He thinks it's peachy keen to do mass surveillance on American citizens. I don't know why Trump made him Secretary of State. I think that was a mistake. But we have to fight this. Anyway, this judge, after several years, grew tired of these cases. Judges kind of react to what's hot and what's sexy at the time. Well, there were several terrorist attacks in the interim, and the intelligence agencies, I believe, pressed him, coerced him, perhaps blackmailed him to finally dismiss these cases and not let them go to trial. And this judge has issued, in 2 or 3 cases recently, very dishonest and contrived decisions saying that we are not even entitled to discovery to find out what was happening, that we had no plausible claim when he had already ruled that we had plausible claims because he found that this was a violation of the Fourth Amendment and it was almost Orwellian. But someone got to him. And I learned through a whistleblower that I used to represent that, in fact, this judge had been surveilled illegally as well by the CIA, NSA, and FBI. They obviously got to him. And I asked him a question before his last dismissal of this class action. I said, Your Honor, please tell us whether or not these intelligence agencies have engaged in ex parte communications with you to urge you to dismiss the cases. I've now asked him 3 times. He won't answer that question. So what's the conclusion? Obviously, yes. Now, I asked him another time yesterday, and you can see this on our website at freedomwatchusa.org. And if he does not answer this question, I'm going to authorities on this, because I'll tell you something. I'm the only lawyer in this country that will stand up to judges. Most lawyers are scared of retaliation. Well, you know what? I don't care anymore. I fought them my whole life. That's why I started Judicial Watch. That's why I ran for the U.S. Senate, to take the concept of Judicial Watch inside the U.S. Senate as a Trojan horse. And that's why I started Freedom Watch after that, because somebody's got to stand up to them. And lawyers have to tell the truth. Lawyers have to be honest. So this is the state of affairs that we're in. We have a deep state, corrupt executive branch, which has broken away from the president himself, which is trying to destroy him, run by the intelligence agencies, with the loyalists of Obama and Clinton still there, with John Brennan and clappers and people like that basically pulling the strings. We've got a legislative branch of a bunch of clowns going on Capitol Hill, running around trying to get on Fox News, basically salivating over the opportunity to get publicity so they can get campaign contributions and get reelected, but doing nothing in reality. And then we have a federal judiciary which is largely corrupt, yes men of the special interests, whether it's Republican, Democrat, corporations, labor unions, or whoever, who were put in power through political campaign contributions to senators and the president, who are simply yes men. And this is the state of affairs. And that's why we are headed for a revolution. I don't want to see it violent, but that's what I think is going to happen. You know, we've all read Ayn Rand's, Atlas Shrugged, and we've read George Orwell's 1984. We are headed in that direction. So we've got to do everything we can. We need a special counsel. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. I'll get the job done. I'll clean out the swamp. I'll clean out the rat's nest. We need 100,000 signatures. Go to freedomwatchusa.org.
30.
This is the kind of a situation that we are in dire straits. This country's sinking to the bottom. We cannot wait. We need to take action. And during the next segment, we're going to have Jason Goodman, a very, very good friend of mine, a real courageous patriot who runs crowdsourcethetruth.org. Crowdsourcethetruth.org. I'm on there frequently. He's on our radio show. We need to make the clarion call to get the American people rise up to take this country back again. We'll be right back.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
We're back with my good friend Jason Goodman. He's the founder and the CEO of crowdsourcethetruth.org. That's crowdsourcethetruth.org. I urge you to go to that website. I urge you to look at his YouTubes. He's been retaliated against by some of these big media companies recently, but he's getting the truth out. And Jason's exactly the kind of person that we need today to communicate with the American people, to help me and others give the clarion call that we must rise up like we did in 1776 and wage a second American Revolution before all is lost. We live in an age which is even worse than what was lived in by our founding fathers with King George III, because there's many more tools to keep the people down. The intelligence agencies, the mass surveillance, the power of the federal government is nothing under King George III compared to the way it is today. I've often said that if King George III had a national security agency and a CIA, the founding fathers would have never made it to Philadelphia to sign the Declaration of Independence. They would have been picked up, arrested and executed before they got there. So, Jason, I want to introduce the audience to you once again. You're a great patriot. You're a great hero. Tell them what you do, and then let's talk about what's going on down there in Florida today with regard to this trial of the wife of the Muslim terrorist.
Thanks for having me on, Larry. I'm really so pleased that you and I have been working together lately because I admire your work and the bravery and patriotism that you show by standing up against the tyranny. And I totally agree with what you just said. I mean, you know, all of us carrying around cell phones and through our computers and our internet activity, I think that people still don't fully appreciate the amount of surveillance that we're constantly under, not including all of the illegal FISA warrants and all the kind of things that these, you know, I'm making air quotes when I say intelligence agencies, things that they can gin up. And if they can do it to, you know, to fight a billionaire who's now the president of the United States, individual citizens like you and I and your listeners, and of course our colleague Laura Loomer, well, we have no hope at all. So it's incredibly important that we get this word out and that people pay attention to what's going on. Even if they disagree with us ideologically, everyone has to be very, very fearful because, you know, as I'm listening to the show before, you know, everything you were saying earlier about Second American Revolution, my fear is that we've already had a revolution, but it's criminals that have taken over our great country. I do not recognize this United States of America.
Well, you're right, Jason. It's gone worse, and it's because the federal government today has more power than even the king did in 1776. And they deceive the American people. They lie to the American people. They get them to think that they're on our side. They're not on our side. They're on their own sides. Like the president's lawyers are on their own sides. They're not going all out for him. And this president is, I think, our last hope before we get someone much worse than Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or another idiot like George W. Bush. I mean, the three of them together, the three stooges, I mean, it's unreal. So this is why we're in the state of affairs that we are today. And it's a Republican and Democrat establishment cabal coupled with a corrupt federal judiciary that rubber stamps whatever they want, which is leading this country into the abyss of destruction. And that's why we do need a special counsel right now. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. But let's talk specifically about what happened to Laura Loomer, because we wanted to have her on today, but this very patriotic and heroic woman can't even speak today, given what happened yesterday. Her throat is gone. She's sick. She's going to see the doctor because she was worked over and threatened in that trial down there in Tampa by an Obama-appointed judge, Judge Byron, for simply doing her job as a journalist. Jason, tell the story. She's a colleague of yours. I met her with you out in Las Vegas, Nevada, when I was representing Cliven Bundy, and I still am, in the tyranny that was meted out against him and his family. And tell the listeners exactly what happened yesterday down there before this outrageous acquittal today in Tampa. And I'm sure this judge steered them in that direction because judges can control and manipulate juries. And the wife of this terrorist was acquitted.
Yeah, it really is outrageous. I mean, Laura was on the show last night, on my show, Crowdsource the Truth, on YouTube with you, Larry. And for those who aren't familiar with Laura, she is a tenacious young woman who is really breaking ground. And I think history will show that she is one of the pioneers of digital journalism, independent journalism. And before we talk about the travesty of justice that's been overseen by Paul G. Byron, the U.S. District Judge over there in the Middle District of Florida, I think it's important to note that whatever anybody thinks about my political position, Laura's political position, it is a fact that right now there is a technological revolution underway that scares the mainstream. And I'm not even talking about anything that someone would categorize as conspiracy theory. I just want people to consider that back in 1985, with the advent of the Macintosh computer, that ushered in an application called desktop publishing that absolutely reorganized the entire offset printing industry and changed it forever, shattered major corporations. And the same thing happened in digital video production in 1996 when Sony introduced the digital video camera for the first time. We had Hollywood motion pictures being created for $22,000 in the case of Blair Witch Project that earned $80 million and essentially declared asymmetric warfare on the traditional business model of Hollywood. Now in 2000, maybe 16, 17, the concept of a handheld smartphone that can broadcast 4K high-definition digital video to anywhere in the world, you've now eliminated the cost and infrastructure of a news truck, a satellite feed, engineers, etc. Someone like Laura Loomer can get on an airplane with a $400 plane ticket and go to the court and go to the proper procedures, which she did, to apply for press credentials, and simply ask a question of someone who is an accomplice to murder, an admitted ISIS murderer, and this woman was married to him, and they're talking about jihad, and all Laura did was ask Noor Salman and her father if jihad is Islamic terror. Now, it seems to me that Judge Byron and his courtroom and the marshals there are more concerned with suppressing Laura's First Amendment rights as a U.S. citizen, trying to investigate and trying to exercise her right to freedom of the press, freedom of speech. And we should also take note, Larry, that freedom of the press is not merely a convenient right. It's a mechanism through which we, the people, are supposed to have a check and balance against this type of corruption. But Paul Byron seems more interested in protecting the delicate feelings of an accomplice to terrorism than he is in allowing Laura to conduct her day-to-day business as a journalist and carry out her constitutional rights. In fact, Laura described to us, and for people who don't know Laura, she is a petite young woman. Maybe she weighs 100 pounds. She was physically accosted by a police officer who she described as a man of at least 200 pounds, obviously armed with a weapon and the authority to incarcerate her if he should choose. And, of course, we know Cliven Bundy and his sons were incarcerated for 2 years without being charged with anything. So every American citizen should be extremely fearful of this gross overreach. And Paul G. Byron needs to be held accountable. You know, I was just searching for his name in some of the articles in the Huffington Post and CNN. He's referred to as a judge. These people want to hide behind their credentials and not stand up and be heard. These are the acts of cowards, not people who know they're doing the right thing.
Well, this judge, of course, is appointed by Barack Obama, who was very pro-Muslim, anti-Israel, anti-Christian, anti-Jewish. And it's no accident that he basically took offense that Laura was asking a legitimate question outside of the courtroom, outside of the courthouse for that matter, which he's entitled to do. And then he winds up at the request of the woman who was being prosecuted, the wife of the terrorist, excluding Laura from the entire courthouse. And then he tried to take her cell phone away from her. Laura refused.
Search it.
She went back in the courthouse. She confronted the marshals and said, I have constitutional rights. I have First Amendment rights. The marshals threatened her, and they took her cell phone, but eventually they gave it back because the judge knew he was out there on a untenable legal limb. But he basically cowered to the will of the Muslim family, which is being supported by the Council for American Islamic Relations, a terrorist front organization in the United States. They have so-called legitimacy, and that idiot George W. Bush gave them credence going back to his administration as well. It's not just Obama. And, you know, it's an outrage. And this is what I've been talking about, the federal judiciary. They become, and they are, just a bunch of yes men and women, political hacks. There's only one left that I know of on the bench in a political type case. You might get some justice if there's no politics involved or nothing involving the government, which got them their job. Maybe you might, but not in these kinds of cases. And we need to start doing something about it. You know, when judges do something unethical like this, the recourse is to file a complaint with the Judicial Council of the 11th Circuit in the case of Byron, and the other circuits have something similar. Who sits on those panels? The other judges in the courthouse that they eat lunch with, that they socialize with, so they cover for each other. And then if you take the matter to the House Judiciary Committee, which has impeachment authority for bad behavior, in the old days they used to impeach judges for drunkenness and not showing up to work even, but not anymore. You have to be caught red-handed taking a bribe to even have a chance to be impeached. The last one impeached was Alice E. Hastings in Miami, federal judge, Southern District of Florida. He then ran for office and became a congressman. Can you believe that, Jason? So there's no accountability. There's no accountability. And these judges are out of control. And it's not just that they're so-called people who disobey the Constitution. They're actually corrupt. And then we're left defenseless. So what is the next result? Going to the streets. That's where we're headed. That's what happened in 1776. The king made a mockery of our legal system. So Laura is a hero.
Yesterday. I mean, we should add that Judge Byron's court actually cited Laura for failure to comply with the orders of a police officer, which is an obviously outrageous, ginned-up charge that now Laura's got to deal with the financial and logistical complexities. You know, she's not a resident of Florida, so this is going to mandate very probably plane tickets, hotel rooms for her to just address that matter. They know they have vast powers to complicate people's lives and financially penalize them without really any legitimate charge. And to add insult to injury, just this morning, Noor Salman was totally acquitted.
Yeah, that's unbelievable, despite overwhelming evidence. And, this gets to our next segment to some extent, Jason. I believe in women's rights. Believe me, I like women. They deserve equal rights to men. But it's out of control right now. And the fact that she was acquitted, I'll tell you something, probably something that played a big role is that women are not held to the same standard as men. And we've seen that with this Me Too movement. You've got Harvey Weinstein. He deserved what he gets. Kevin Spacey deserves what he gets with the degeneracy that he has exhibited and others. But women now think that they can make any accusation, walk off scot-free, destroy a man's life 40 years after the fact, as happened with Judge Moore down there in Alabama. But you also see it translated into the legal system, is that somehow, and you see this in family law a lot, women have more rights than men. And that's true among a lot of minorities in this country. And I'm a minority myself, so are you. But the reality is that we need to have equal justice under the law. We don't have judges that will mete it out. That's why I want to be appointed special counsel, because I'll tell you something, no pun intended, I'll go on a legal jihad and clean this whole thing out. Because, in a positive way, not in a terrorist way. But we need to clean out this rat's nest, which is infesting the law enforcement community and the judges in this country. So we're going to be back with our final segment with Jason, but I want to urge you, and I know it sounds like I'm promoting myself, but frankly, I honestly believe in my heart that I'm the only one that can get this done. And you need to go to freedomwatchusa.org, sign our petition. You need to listen to Jason on crowdsourcethetruth.org. You need to listen to people like Jason, and you need to heed his clarion call as well as mine, because you don't get the truth on Fox News. It's watered down. Okay, I like Fox News, but it's watered down. And you got to go to other sources to really understand what's going on. We'll be right back.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I want to talk more about this Me Too movement. We have equal justice under the law. That's what we were supposed to have. Doesn't matter whether you're black or white, yellow or green, Jewish, Christian, or Muslim, or whoever in this country. We're all to be treated equally. I've seen it in the family law system. I've seen it elsewhere, particularly with regard to women, is that husbands don't have the same rights as women in custody cases or anything else. Women can make a false accusation in a family law case, destroy a man's life. Some of them have even jumped off of buildings with these false allegations, and they walk off and they're not prosecuted and nothing happens. And what we're seeing today, and I have to tell you with regard to my friend Judge Roy Moore, who's a great man, I believe, he believes in the Ten Commandments. He brought the Ten Commandments into his courthouse in Alabama. He believes in the Constitution. He stood up against fellow judges. And whether or not you believe in gay marriage, the fact is it's not accounted for in our Constitution. So he gave orders to his other judges in Alabama while he was Chief Justice to obey the Constitution and not the Supreme Court. And like I said, it doesn't matter whether you believe that's appropriate or not. I'm not even homophobic, but it's not in the Constitution. And you need people like that. There are very few of them. And 40 years after the fact, when he ran for the U.S. Senate, women came forward claiming that he abused them in some way. They destroyed his campaign. The Washington Post published libelous stories to harm him and is continuing to do it even this week. And this is a situation that you have to fight back because we're all equal. And we're going to stand there for women. I'll stand there for African Americans like the postal workers that were anthraxed when the white people up on Capitol Hill like Tom Daschle were getting medical care. 8 black postal workers were dying at the post office after 9/11. I represented them against the government. I am, in effect, a civil rights lawyer, and I know that Jason feels the same way about what he does. So this is why we need to break through, and it's why I need to be appointed special counsel. And frankly, I'm volunteering for the president's legal staff, too. I can't do both. I'd have to pick one or the other. But, Jason, I want to get your final thoughts on this because without a justice system, we have no country at all. And that's why I am so frightened that something needs to be done immediately.
You're absolutely right, Larry. And I mean, people seem to want to gerrymander the Constitution or cherry pick little portions of it that suit their needs at a given time. And, you know, when you were working with the Bundys, and particularly when I observed Ryan Bundy's assistance to his own defense, these are constitutional patriots who really, I mean, that Constitution is there to protect us against the tyrannical government. And we've kind of gotten to this place where if you can put something on CNN or, you know, even Fox, and I'm not trying to malign these news outlets, but, you know, these are corporate-owned, advertiser-driven. You know, if you name the advertiser, if it's a major pharmaceutical company or a military industrial or a technocratic giant, and they don't like the stories, you know, it's very easy for them to turn off the money spigot, and that directs the flow of news. We see a lot of people who are making these efforts, even with Laura today. The Huffington Post should be ashamed of itself. They're describing her as a far-right conspiracy theorist and basically making Laura out to be the criminal, as someone who participated in a terrorist act is acquitted and treated like a hero. It's outrageous. And, I mean, you know, for everyone that might object to what we're saying or disagree with what we're saying, of course, all claims of abuse, particularly sexual abuse of women or children, need to be taken very, very seriously. But we cannot lose sight of the fact that each of us have the constitutional right to be considered innocent until proven guilty. A retired adult film actress sit down with Anderson Cooper and explain to us how she was lying 5 or 10 years ago on an affidavit, but now she's being truthful and she's not doing it just for the money, and convict a man who's been rightfully elected as the president of the United States, where even if he did do what this woman claims, it's completely lawful and a matter between the man and his wife. It's outrageous.
Absolutely right. I mean, the country is spinning out of control in a downward spiral. We are headed for a major crash, and I'm not just talking about the stock market, which, you know, may be the victim of all of this as well. If the president winds up getting impeached and has to go through a proceeding in the Senate, even if he's not likely to be convicted. But this is a serious matter. We're going to be back next week with more of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. God bless you all. God bless the country, and God save the country.